Hello and welcome back to the Spare Time Shop. I'm Ruben and in this video I'm going to show you how I turned this really old, worn down, dirty barn into this beautiful, a little messy, but perfectly functional workshop. In the winter last year we had a leak which damaged a lot of the floorboards and caused some mold on the beams. But most of it is just on the surface, luckily, so I could treat these easily with some product. Most beams are still structurally sound, but the ones that have too much water damage, they need to go. So I'm starting in this corner and working my way to the back of the shed to remove all the damaged wood. So I started working on moving the staircase from that corner to this corner of the shop, and I already ran into some issues. I have no clue how big the opening needs to be for the new staircase, so I can't really move on with laying new flooring until I figure out how I'm going to make the stairs, and I guess I'll have to make some plans now. And I did make some plans, so let's move on. Now that I know how big the opening needs to be for the new staircase, I can continue to cut up these boards and remove them. I also need to remove these beams carefully as I want to reuse them to finish the new opening. I thought they would just fall down, but they got stuck. And then I noticed these beams were nailed to the ones next to them, so I had to pry them off. And judging by the size of these nails, I'm pretty sure the people who built this shed did not want it to be demolished easily. Now this header beam needs to be replaced as well. I'm tracing the shape on a new piece that's in a better condition and cutting that one to shape with a circular saw. Knocking it into place, and it's a perfect fit. I'm also cutting down a second beam to layer on top of that one, and I'm adding a half lap joint to one end so I can connect a new cross beam to it later on. Removing this long piece and also cutting a recess in the parts I've left. Measuring the length needed, and I am finally up to cutting my first beam to length. Also adding two half lap joints on the ends. Now let's put this one into place. Alright, that seems sturdy. I'm closing up the opening to the desired size to fit the staircase with some leftover beams. Screwing them together with some big lumber framing screws and knocking in the short pieces as bridging between the joists, so they won't be able to move as much. With the new opening all framed out, it's time to bring the new floorboards upstairs. I'm using 18mm OSB boards with tongue and grooves, which should be plenty strong. To get the first row to fit the brick wall, I took a block and scribed a line. I took a couple of centimeters off the side of the boards following that line and placed the boards back up to the wall. No gap? Not perfect. A good straight first row is important and will save you work down the line. I'm screwing all the boards down on each beam with probably way too many screws, but you know, better safe than sorry. I can now move on and replace the old boards with the OSB. I am doing this in sections because I still have some stuff stored up there and I cannot take out the whole flooring all at once. Smashing down the old boards goes pretty quickly, but removing these old nails is a painstakingly slow process. Well, you get it. Moving on. I had to cut some boards to fit the opening of the staircase, and some to go around the roof supports. Now, I'm not messing with the roof, I'll just carefully go around the structures, making my way to the back of the shed, one row at a time. We've now come to the worst damaged part of the first floor. And it's a pretty dangerous spot, as the boards are so far gone you could easily fall through. So demolition went really quickly though. These beams are more than a little rotten and will need to be replaced completely, so away they go. And luckily I found some beams at my lumber dealer that match the dimensions of these old ones pretty closely. The new beams are a bit wider though, so I had to take a bit of material off the ends to make them fit into the holes in the wall. Just checking if they are level, and perfect. Just like before, I'm adding some bridge pieces to keep the beams upright and to close the gaps in the wall. And with some fresh paint, you'll never know these were replaced. I'm also covering up the openings in the old staircase with some new beams, so that I can continue with laying new boards. Alright, so we're finally at the old staircase, and I'm going to cover this up with the OSB boards. But to do this, I'll have to remove it because it's kind of in the way. Alright, let's take it down. Although the stairs came down pretty easily, it was a lot heavier than expected. I am moving the old staircase to the front of the shop and installing it in the new opening. This way I can use it temporarily instead of a ladder. Now let's get on to finishing the first floor. So now with the first floor all done, it's time to move everything out of here and store it upstairs so I can make some room for the new concrete slab that's going to be poured in. Which also means I have to remove all this junk from the storage and even remove the racks that I just put in. And in case you're wondering what we did with all this leftover wood, we treated ourselves to a nice quiet evening by the fire with some fresh beers. There is actually one more thing I need to do before the concrete comes in. And that's actually something I didn't plan on, but I'm going to remove these stairs. Now, I didn't think it was necessary, but thinking about the thickness of the concrete slab, it would just make the last step really awkward. It wouldn't really make any sense to keep these, if that means I would have to build up all the steps equally to compensate for the floor rising up. So it's bye-bye brick staircase, and after removing all the bricks and dirt, I then leveled the hole in the floor left by the stairs. Alright, so I pretty much cleared everything that stood here and put it all upstairs. Now the only thing left to do is remove the old staircase again, so the ground floor is free and I can begin prepping for the concrete. Yup, still heavy. Alright, prepping for concrete. Well, the first step is to add a foam strip on the perimeter. This allows the concrete slab to expand within the walls. I cut the strip around the corners to get really crisp seams. I also cut away the bottom of the door trim so the concrete can go underneath. Now the second step is to add some plastic sheeting. This keeps the moisture in the concrete and allows it to set slowly. It also keeps unwanted moisture from the ground from seeping into the slab once it's dry. I'm taping the seams to make sure it's watertight. Now I'm not laying down any netting or rebarb because I chose a fiber reinforced concrete mix. And I'll show you what that means later on. The big day is finally here. Now it's early in the morning, the mixer is here and he is pretty much blocking the whole street, so let's get this done quickly. The guy from the concrete plant put a big hose all the way to the back of the shop and helped me out quite a bit. Now he controlled the pump and sprayed the concrete on the floor. I was following him with a rake trying to level all the concrete out. And we slowly worked our way back to the door. I checked if the thickness was okay every square meter or so, and once I was happy with it, I came back with a flat piece of wood to vibrate out all the air bubbles of the concrete, and leaving a smooth surface. So here you can see the fiberglass reinforcement in the dried up leftovers. Since there will be no extreme heavy loads on the floor, this should be strong enough. Now the guy told me to leave it dry for a couple of hours, and once I could stand on it while leaving an imprint of about half a centimeter, that meant the concrete was stable enough I could start to work it. And I could bring out the concrete trowel polishing machine that I rented just for this project. This is a gas-powered motor which turns these 6 trowels on the bottom. Now I've never used one of these, so it's really a make or break moment here. Now you can see the trowels slowly closing up the surface of the concrete and making it flat. Now this machine is quite heavy, and because of the trowels turning, it's also pretty hard to steer. I wanted to make some nice and big circles, but the machine only wants to go to the left, so it's quite hard to keep it under control. I got pinned between this machine and the wall at some point, which left me with some bruises, but I'm not letting this thing win. I maybe could have gone for a thick-set epoxy floor. I've seen a lot of YouTubers use it in their shops, and that way the floor would only rise up about a centimeter or so. But epoxy floors, they need a stable subsurface, and I was unsure about the old tiles being stable enough. I also checked the price, and it was not that much different for this surface area. So the choice between a thin layer of epoxy or a slab of 15 cm solid concrete was made rather quickly. I think I repeated the whole process about 5 times, leaving some time in between for the concrete to cure a bit more. In each pass I adjusted the angle of the trowels so they'd catch in a little deeper, and each pass left me with a better finish. Now the concrete got poured in at about 7 in the morning, and my last pass was at 7 in the evening, so after a very long and tiring day, I finally decided to quit once I was happy with the surface. And once the slab had fully cured, I removed the excess foam and plastic from the edges and started my layout to cut the expansion gaps. I'm dividing the floor into 3 segments along the columns. A solid slab of concrete, and surely this size, is very sensitive to cracking when expanding due to changes in temperature. And it has to be said that these slots in the surface do not stop the slab from cracking. Rather, they make sure that the cracks don't appear in unwanted areas. So if cracks appear in the slab, they will go to the thinnest part and run in the grooves I just cut, leaving a nice straight line. And that's why these cuts are shallow and not all the way through. It should be efficient. So it all turned out pretty good. It was really exciting because I thought I would ruin it all, but yeah, it kind of worked out. So I've left the floor to dry out for about a week now, and I think it's time to treat the surface. And I've got this water seal product to seal the surface from water damage. So I'm going to apply it now, and let's see how that turns out. I just poured the product out and spread it around the entire floor with a big roller, making sure it's divided evenly because I was kind of scared it would leave some discolorations, but it did not, as it turns out. I left it on the concrete until it completely dried, and then I went back for a second coat. The very next day I filled up the expansion gaps with some silicone so no dirt could get in there. And that's pretty much it. Hello, it's me from the future. It's been currently about 8 months since I finished this floor. And I have to say I'm very happy with how it's held up. I've been using it pretty much every day since, as you can tell by this mess. I've not experienced any chipping or cracks or stains or anything really, so I'm really happy with the durability of the floor. Now, in these 8 months, we've had a really hot summer and it's currently a pretty cold winter. And I've had no issues with the concrete slab expanding or contracting. Apart from its little crack at the column right there, but it stopped just at the edge I cut, so it's all fine, really. So overall I'm really happy with my choice to go for a polished concrete slab for the flooring, as it will pretty much stay clean forever, hopefully. So thank you so much for watching. If you want to see me finish up the rest of this building, please consider subscribing. It'll be worth it, because in the next video I'll be making a brand new staircase. Okay, now I'm going inside, it's cold as hell.